Hey everybody, it's Tom Woods. So here we are facing yet another one of these phony baloney so-called debates we have to endure in this country from time to time. And this one involves allegedly draconian budget cuts coming from the Republicans. $60 billion they're cutting. $60 billion is 10 cents off a trip to the moon when you look at the situation we're facing. We got $1.5 trillion deficit. We got unfunded liabilities to the tune of $114 trillion. We're supposed to be worried about $60 billion. And if they cut $60 billion, even $60 billion, the earth will just break free of its axis and go tumbling toward the sun. Well, this sort of mentality just guarantees we're heading toward disaster. You can't even cut marginally and trivially without hysteria. So this is what I'm driving at in my book, Rollback. Basically, I'm saying two things here. First, I'm laying out the facts that are not disputed by anyone. I'm not contriving a crisis that does not exist. But I'm explaining that we are indeed headed for a disaster, and I'm showing why and how it's going to happen. But more importantly, 90% of the book is aimed at basically saying this. How did we get here? We got here because we were sold a bill of goods that a lot of us bought into. We believed the rhetoric about government that we got in the 6th grade, that these people are wonderful public servants merely pursuing the common good. And good heavens, without them we'd have no art. We'd have no science. We'd all be ignoramuses. We'd probably be out doing voodoo or a rain dance or whatever. We'd probably be having our limbs blown off by exploding consumer products. Our kids would be working in a mine for $1 a day. This is what all of us got in the 6th grade. We all got that. And it's superficially plausible. I understand why people believe it. But it's this series of myths that has got to be smashed vigorously. Because it's this that gives rise to people's acquiescence in and even support for the growth of government. Because they think, well, you know, in his heart of hearts, Joe Biden really does have my welfare at heart. I mean, his heart is aflame with a passion for justice. Wherever would we be without the paternal custodianship of Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell? We'd be a bunch of helpless and pathetic boobs. That's the view that we've been taught to internalize. And that's why we look the other way as the government grows. Well, look, they're just wonderful public servants. Who could object to the growth of this thing? That's what we need to go after. It'd be nice to cut the budget, but it'd be much better to cut out all this juvenile thinking about government in the first place. So that's what this book is doing. It's taking a machete to all this stuff that we got starting in the 6th grade and continuing on in the media and all these other outlets. And so we go through about the economy, the financial crisis. Wasn't this caused by deregulation? Wasn't it caused by the so-called partial repeal of Glass-Steagall and all this stuff? That's all mercilessly smashed. The Federal Reserve System, my goodness, how could we question that? That's our wise overlords just trying to be in charge of the money for us. They're just trying to fine-tune the economy, and we're a bunch of ingrates for asking them questions. Well, we're taking a machete to that too, and I'm giving you all the ammunition you need when anyone says to you, but look at the statistics. We've had a lot more stability since we had the Fed, and we had all these terrible things happen before the Fed, and you know, what kind of Neanderthal would you have to be an opponent of it? All that's addressed. The Pentagon is in here. This is the one department of government that we're supposed to believe is populated by angels who would never lie to us. We don't even need to audit these people. Well, I'm throwing a little bit of cold water on that too. And then I've got a chapter, The Myth of Good Government, where I'm going after some of the hard cases. Why, whatever would we do without government spending on X, Y, or Z? And I show exactly what we did do. It's not like we've never tried it. I show exactly what we did do before X, Y, and Z were funded by government, and what we would do in the future. All these sorts of objections that you're going to get, even the hardest ones, I'm taking on. And what I'm trying to do is, in effect, provide as much ammunition for the liberty movement as I possibly can to help buttress our arguments so that we can be even more effective in spreading the message of freedom. It would be great if the Tea Party were reading a book like Rollback instead of, unfortunately, the pap from people like Dick Morris that they're supposed to read, that just basically keeps them safe and on the plantation and not thinking outside the box. Well, as I've said before, that box needs to be crushed into the ground and then set on fire, and that's what Rollback is trying to do. And then finally, I do offer some solutions, although they might seem a little on the radical side, but that only stands to reason given the dire nature of our situation. Now, I am not able to reach mass media all that often. My appearances in the mass media are only sporadic, and it's very difficult to promote a book as radical as this one. So I don't have an audience of 5 million, typically, but what I do have is you guys. And you folks have been extremely generous with me in the past, and so I ask you, if you enjoy this book and you have a blog, could you mention it for me? Could you post about it on Facebook or Twitter if you enjoy reading it? Let people know it exists. I've got to just get the word out of the very existence of the book. I think it's one that will help. I think it's one you'll enjoy. It's very punchily written, and it contains quite a bit of information. I think you'll be quite pleased. You will not feel like you wasted your money. I packed as much information as I possibly could between these covers. But whatever you can do, if you've got a mailing list that you sometimes send out emails to, well, what's one more annoying email to your friends about this? If you are not able to buy the book or read it, I at least urge you to visit rollbackbook.com, where you can read a free chapter of the book. And I hope you'll at least do that, because that chapter really lays out the situation we're in. We all need to understand this clearly. And that first chapter, by the way, is the least radical of the book, because it gets more and more radical as it goes along. It is a libel on the human race to claim that we would all be helpless and pathetic boobs and probably dead or in a ditch somewhere if it weren't for the Mitch McConnells watching over us. That is absolutely false. We would not only survive, but we would flourish. And in Rollback, I'm presenting the proof. Thank you guys very much for your support, and I hope you enjoy the book.